So Mandy accidentally broke my glasses. More on this in the middle of the video, and hopefully it's not too distracting. Hey guys, it's Sebby. Today we're going to look at the history of Visa and also Mastercard. We're going to do this by reacting to a video by Company Man who has a lot of other very good videos, so I'd recommend checking out his channel. Big favor before we dive in is to give this a thumbs up, and if you like stuff like this, consider subscribing. I usually watch his videos at 1.5x speed, so maybe a bit fast, but I think it's within the normal cadence of this channel.
I think this is a common misconception, so I should make it clear right away that these are not banks. They both identify themselves as a technology company. When you pay your credit card interest or late fees or whatever, that goes to your bank, not Visa or Mastercard.
They're basically the Uber of their space. They're the middleman company. They're taking a transaction fee. They don't really care whether you go bankrupt or they don't know how to issue you debt. That's not really their job. I've seen so many people get mad at Visa or Mastercard, and in reality, they should be getting mad at the bank that issued them the card.
Visa and Mastercard make money from the bank, or whoever's issuing the card. They charge a fee that's dependent on how much the card is used. Now, let's take a look at these two, how they've helped shape the industry, how they've competed over the years, and where they stand today. The first tangible examples of what resembles what we know today were in the early 1900s, when companies would issue their own cards to their customers. Stores were a common place to see it.
Oh, store cards. Pretty much what we still see today, but yeah, didn't actually know that.
The idea being that maybe you could purchase more and then you'd be more likely to return to my store as opposed to a competitor.
Loyalty is such a huge thing.
But these cards were always very small in scale because they had no reach.
And also, I'd be super scared of issuing you too much debt. It's that whole analogy with the bar. You can let someone have a tab, but if it gets too high, there's a certain point where you stop giving them drinks because you don't know if they're going to pay it off.
Until 1950 with the introduction of the Diners Club card. That was the first ever card to be accepted by multiple businesses on a large scale. Within its first year, it had 20,000 holders.
I kind of actually want a Diners Club card for the meme of it and maybe for a memento. It feels like it was before my time, but it seems pretty cool. Auto rentals through Hertz Rent-A-Car. I wonder if they had any status or stuff like that too. Your credit is good wherever you go as a member of the Diners Club.
Then in 1951, Franklin National Bank introduced the first card that was actually provided by a bank. It wasn't long before all the banks across the country were providing their own version of a charge card. These were considered charge cards, not credit cards.
I think I've said this a few times, but I think charge cards should be the starting point for most people if given the choice because it teaches you to do it right.
But I would consider it a limitation of the service. The other big limitation was geographic. Bank of America changed the game when they combined 3 words into one.
I feel like I haven't heard that before. Bank of America changing the game.
And introduced Bank AmeriCard. This was what many people consider to be...
That's a really ugly card. Still can't believe people used to have their addresses on their cards like that.
The first modern-day credit card. In 1965, they found an effective way to expand their reach beyond their state. They would license their card to local banks across the country and have those banks do all the work in establishing it in their area.
A lot of people don't like this, but there's fintech companies who don't have the bank charters who want to expand their reach. So they partner with these regional banks who don't really have that reach, and they basically do the distribution.
Bank AmeriCard had a recognizable, trusted name. If I were a bank in Memphis, you could see how offering this card to my customers would be beneficial to me. Then it would be up to the Memphis bank to make the deals with the local merchants to have them accept the card and then issue the card to their
It makes so much sense.
customers. The end result was hundreds of banks across the US setting up their own little Bank AmeriCard system in their community and paying the Bank of America for the right to do it.
That's exactly what something like Yotta does, but obviously not this specific credit type product.
Meanwhile, in 1966, there was an unrelated credit card forming in a much different way. This group of banks, mostly in California, but they stretched across America, came together to start a new card.
Interbank Card Association.
And the new card was called Mastercharge. With a collection of
NANI? I carry clout. Clout gives you acceptance.
already established banks backing it from the beginning, it grew pretty fast.
Clout is power. Clout opens door. Clout is a master charge card. It's your personal account at over 2 million places. Brian, I think you got the wrong card. I think you should have a Mastercard. I think this is the one for you. That's Mastercharge. That's Clout.
We have Mastercharge and Bank AmeriCard, the first 2 major credit cards. But the organizations themselves were set up very differently. One was centrally ran by a single bank, Bank of America, and the other one was ran by a collection of banks.
It's crazy to think how powerful Bank of America used to be. I guess they're still pretty big at 354 billion market cap, and Chase is at almost 500 billion. On that note, this video is sponsored by Mandy Romes, who broke my glasses.
I'm making an appointment so you can get new glasses because you broke yours.
She recently did a video talking about her $700,000 portfolio, so I'd recommend checking out that video, and she's also almost at 10,000 subscribers. If you head over there, tell her that Sebby sent you. She'll probably be hopping more on the YouTube grind as well, and she's been taking Skillshare courses.
Mandy's learning.
Also, quick reminder that Skillshare is still offering free trials. The first 1,000 people to click the link will get a free trial of the Skillshare Premium membership. Back to the video.
In 1970, Bank of America got rid of Bank AmeriCard and sold it to National Bank AmeriCard Incorporated. A group of those banks that were paying that licensing fee to Bank of America to issue the card, they came together to establish a company that would buy the card.
Bank of America is powerful. Feels like the old British Empire.
2 years later, they changed the name of everything from Bank AmeriCard to Visa.
That's a better name. Visa sounds a lot better than Bank AmeriCard, even though I know Bank AmeriCard still exists as branding. Yikes. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of Bank AmeriCard even now, and I wonder if Bank of America sold a bit too early.
At the time, they were pushing really hard to become an international
Still kind of an ugly card to me.
brand, but they had the word America right in the middle of their name. They didn't like the idea of marketing it that way in other countries. They actually specifically chose the name Visa because it didn't connect them to a certain area, and it was easy enough to pronounce no matter what language you spoke. 2 years later, MasterCharge became MasterCard.
I kind of like the MasterCard logo better.
I want to say that this was an indirect result of Visa's name change, changing their name to reflect the fact that they were no longer just a charge card. If you're wondering if it's smarter for you to get a MasterCard or a Visa card, it really doesn't matter.
So much of the benefits are exactly the same nowadays. It's more about the bank issuing the card rather than MasterCard or Visa itself. I feel like acceptance nowadays is also pretty good. I'm going to pull up a chart because I want to prove that point. So if you look at Visa and MasterCard, their international and domestic acceptance rates are pretty similar. Visa, is a bit better internationally. Surprisingly, MasterCard is worse than the brand that I'm not supposed to talk about.
The company that became Visa was first, so they were obviously ahead for those first 8 years. The company that became MasterCard had a solid backing to start, so they quickly pulled ahead and stayed there for more than a decade.
That's so long ago. That's crazy.
Made that aggressive international push, they pulled ahead somewhere around 1980. It hasn't changed again since. In the late 1990s, MasterCard gained a little ground from their successful marketing campaign. They would list the monetary price of a bunch of items, and then in the final one,
there are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard.
Okay, I do remember that one.
In 2006, MasterCard went on the stock market with a massive initial public offering, and then 2 years later, Visa did the same thing.
Both companies have had pretty good runs from $16 a share to like $213, $230. Oh, interesting. So Visa went from 16 to 230. MasterCard went from $4 to almost 400, so almost 100x. But Visa's market cap is bigger, and so technically they're the better company, arguably.
In almost any aspect, I can't find many major differences between them other than their size. Visa controls almost half the market, whereas MasterCard controls fourth and a third of it.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I feel like the more competitive cards, though, have been on Visa. I'm not really sure why. I feel like MasterCard, on one hand, they're doing a lot of benefit type stuff of Lyft and all those other auxiliary benefits, but Visa, generally speaking, has the more competitive cards.
Their revenue is considerably larger for Visa, as we would expect, but they're both growing at a similar pace. And then their net income shows something somewhat similar. For their total transactions, it was $188 billion compared to $103 billion. Totals to $11.4 trillion for Visa compared
Wow, it's almost twice as much.
to $5.9 trillion for MasterCard. For the number of cards in circulation worldwide, it's
It's also not twice as many cards, so it means on average it looks like Visa people are spending more money.
I also want to point out that the combined 5.3 billion cards represents about 85% of the market.
That's actually kind of crazy to think about how small the other two players are.
The credit card industry has grown tremendously over the past few decades, and the credit card networks have grown proportionally with it. But there hasn't been much change between the networks. If one of them makes a big change, the other one tends to follow. They are both advancing, but the distance between them never changes much.
That's the thing I always say too, that you want the companies to be pushing each other to do better. Otherwise, we're not really going to see any innovation. We're not going to see any more benefits as consumers.
Well, now, just like 30 or 40 years ago, we have Visa with a commanding lead, MasterCard following behind quite a bit in second place. Also, what's your perception as far as the difference between them?
I think the differences end up being more card-based than anything, and Visa's a little bit better in terms of branding, and MasterCard is trying to be the every person card versus Visa. MasterCard also has an elite hotel program that I kind of forgot about. Visa's, at least, it's a bit more top of mind. I think the fact that so many people have Chase Sapphire Reserve just makes it really easy for people to see Visa. When I think about MasterCards, I'm thinking about the IXG Premier from Chase and also the Citi Premier and the Citi Prestige. That's kind of it. Obviously, there are other ones, but I feel like they're not as top of mind. I'm going to read through some of the comments because I think they're funny, and you probably have dealt with some of these as well. I remember a scammer called me and said, "Hello, you have an issue with your Visa and or MasterCard." I said, "Okay, really? Which one do I have?" They hung up. Ironically, I think for us, it's going to be the opposite problem. So I've had that happen to me where they're like, "Hey, you have an issue with your Visa card." And then I'm like, "Which Visa card?" And they're like, "Your Visa card." And I'm like, "I have 20 of them. Which one is it?" It also really sucks for the verification stuff. They ask you about the last card you added in like 2020 or something, and I don't know which one because they have all the options there. Always assume they use the word Visa because of the travel visa. That's kind of what I thought too. I carried clout. They should bring that tagline back. New marketing campaign. Might appeal to the younger consumer. Definitely works for some other YouTubers. I think there's definitely a crowd for that. Honestly, I'm surprised that there isn't a fintech startup that's leveraging the clout aspect and always metal cards and everything that you would expect from that targeting. Clout is a Mastercard charge card, truly ahead of their time. Mastercard, at least they acknowledge that you're the slave. So I feel like that's the thing that I always notice with any other community, even some other personal finance ones when you're looking at like credit card stuff, because people don't use credit cards responsibly. They're not paying them off in time. They're not actually taking advantage of the rewards. They're the ones paying for our rewards. Good luck with, I'm guessing, renting a car or booking a hotel in some places that require credit cards. So my takeaway from the video is that Bank of America might have sold a little bit too early unless they had some back-end agreement, which I don't think exists. Otherwise, we'd probably know by now. Number 2 is that they're relatively similar in terms of the base benefits, and most of them are going to be card related. Number 3 is that Mastercard used to be the OG Flex card. On that note, if you are someone that wants to learn about cards, whether it's from Visa or Mastercard and you want to support the channel, we do have links on our website, AskSebby.com, and also down below in the description box. My question for you guys is, what are your thoughts on Visa versus Mastercard? Which one do you think is winning, and which one do you like better? I think Mastercard is trying to make strides, but it just doesn't feel like it's sticking as much. I think they need that next big card to be a Mastercard for it to work. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you know anyone else who benefit, then share this with them. I'll probably help them out, but otherwise, hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time. There's some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's Mastercard.